last time we saw Kate, she wasn't even legal. We were even legal then. No, you weren't. What did you do? I'm a year older than you. Oh, yeah. We were getting soda. I remember the song.
Baka bang iniintay natin? Kaya mamaya kayo na lang natin yung galit natin.
All right, folks, I'm going to start slowing down. We're going to run along the shoreline for a little bit, see who might be home out here at Cape Resurrection. One thing I would like to mention, all the animals that we have an opportunity to view are wild, many of them protected by law. We are not to disturb them in any way. As we come upon wildlife, I want you all to stay still and quiet on the outer decks. If you guys start making a lot of noise, I've got to drive away. We are not to disturb them in any way. Start making a lot of noise a couple of times and I will be very reluctant to approach any of the other animals. As I say, many of them are protected by law. We are visiting them in their home and we are to be respectful. So here we are at Cape Resurrection. We'll just start crawling along the shoreline and see who might be home today. Well, first off, let's slow down here. Right on this headland, just to our left, there is a dead tree extending upwards from the point, and in that tree there is the adult bald eagle. Easily identified as such by its very distinctive white head and tail feathers. Although considered threatened and endangered elsewhere in parts of the world and the United States, bald eagles are doing quite well here in Alaska, and they can be found throughout all coastal regions as well inland up many of the large rivers. And that is because bald eagles live primarily on a diet of fish. About 90% of an eagle's diet is fish. They do supplement their diet with ground squirrels, hoary marmots, eggs and chicks of other nesting birds, as well as other small mammals. But about 80 and 90% of their diet is fish. These birds can have a wingspan of well over 6 feet. They are extremely powerful birds, and they are capable of taking fish well over 6 to 8 pounds from the surface of lakes, bays, creeks, and streams. Anytime you see an eagle flying over water, you should always pay close attention to the bird. At any time, you may see it swoop down and take a fish from the water. Bald eagles will oftentimes mate for life, and oftentimes not. Female eagles will oftentimes use the same nesting site year after year, and oftentimes not. It's also quite common for a female eagle to use another female's nest that is no longer using it. However, every year that a female eagle uses a nesting site, she adds material to it. And there is an eagle's nest down in southeast Alaska, down in the Sitka area, where it's been documented that the same nest has been in use for intermittently for over 50 years by more than 12 different female eagles, and that nest is over 9 feet across and 8 feet deep, and the nest alone is estimated to weigh over 750 pounds. Young eagles reach adult size in just 2 to 3 years, but they don't get their white head and tail feather until they're 3 to 5 years of age. Until then, they're mottled brown and white in color, very similar to a golden eagle. And I'm sure if you are paying attention throughout this day, you will see more and more bald eagles. I won't stop for another one unless it gives us a little bit better view, but you will see eagles throughout this day without a doubt if you're paying attention. And again, they can be found anywhere on this trip flying above us. in trees, on the rocks, and on the shoreline. Just off on our right-hand side of the vessel, you'll see some breaking water. That is what's called Mary's Rock. If you're an explorer on land and you're the first one to see something, you can pretty much name it anything you want. You can name a valley, a river, pretty much anything you want. The rules change for those who make our living on the water. Pretty much the first thing you hit is going to get your name, and that is Mary's Rock. She got it first. It's on the chart. However, at higher tides and calm water, that rock is lurking just beneath the surface, and every year, every other year, someone does again plow into that rock. But Mary hit it first. It's Mary's Rock, and it will always be Mary's Rock. As we come by this next rock on our left-hand side, now there's some large blackbirds flying by with a long, thin neck, and if you're careful, you can see a couple of them standing on this rock just off to our left. Those are called cormorants. They are what are called semi-pelagic plunge divers. They are not true open ocean birds. They're semi-pelagic. They're not waterproof. They're just water resistant. And well, if you don't know the difference between waterproof and water resistant, you should maybe have somebody else go buy a raincoat for you. Waterproof means it'll keep you dry. Water resistant means it'll keep you dry for a little while, but sooner or later you're going to get wet. And cormorants can actually get so wet that they can drown. So they stay near shore quite a bit, so they can periodically come to land, stand on the land, spread their wings, let the sun and the air dry them out. We do have three types of cormorants here. We have the red face, the pelagic, and the double crest. They are plunge divers. They have the capacity to dive about 6 feet beneath the surface. And those are the same birds used by the fishermen in Asia to do the fishing for them. They take them out in their small boats. They put a ring around their neck and a string on their foot. And if the bird catches a small enough fish that'll pass through the ring, well, he gets to keep it. If, however, he catches a fish so large it won't pass through the ring, well, the fisherman hauls it back by that string and makes him literally cough it up. On this rock to the left of us, way down low along just above the water's edge, you'll see a large group of birds closely packed together. Those are black-legged kittiwakes nesting. And above them, kind of all by themselves, is a larger gull, also nesting, and those are glaucous-winged gulls. There is no such thing as a seagull. All gulls have their proper names: herring gulls, mew gulls, Bonaparte gulls, all kinds of gulls. Nothing so generic as a seagull. The black-legged kittiwakes, however, are the easiest to identify from any of the other ones. And how would you see them? Yeah, black legs. Although they are also the only gull out here to have black markings on their wingtips. So if they got black markings on the wingtips, they are black-legged kittiwakes. All right, I'm gonna pull up now to a little place we call the grocery store, and it's a place I can't get the whole boat in and still keep my job. It's not my boat, but I need the job. So the best viewing is going to be from the forward portion of the vessel. This is not the Alaska Behind Glass tour like the railroad or the buses. This is the real deal. Come on out. It's a beautiful day, and we're going to pull right up and look at some of the nesting sites of another seabird. The name of the bird we're going to be looking at in just a moment is called the common murre. And I don't like it. Well, I like the bird. I don't like the name. As far as I'm concerned, it is the unique, the extraordinary, and the exceptional murre because it does things other birds simply can't or won't. All right, here's how this is going to work, folks. I see the sea lions over there. I know they're there. Focus. We're looking at the murres. We will get to the sea lions soon enough. To the crew, anybody taking pictures of the sea lions at this point, take their cameras away. And I can, and I will, because I'm the captain. Okay, these birds, the common murre, their nickname is the penguin of the north. They stand upright on their back, or well, their only legs, and with their white breast, black back, and all black head, they do look like the penguins of Antarctica. And these birds nest in this crack. But unlike other birds, the murres do not even build a nest. They go back in that crack and they lay their egg right on the bare rock. And they can do this because their egg is pear-shaped. If it gets bumped by another bird or blown by the wind, it rolls in a very tight circle. And these birds communally incubate the egg. They stack themselves in there like firewood, one jammed right on top of the other, and together they warm the rock and warm the egg. These are open ocean, diving, fish-eating birds. These birds live 50 to 250 miles out at sea. They only come ashore because they haven't figured out how to lay an egg that'll float or hatch on the water. If these birds could do that, they would have no use for land whatsoever. Also, when these young murres, the baby chicks, begin to fledge or leave the nesting site, the young birds will come out to the edge of this crack and they'll watch the grown-ups fly back and forth. And then, like the young of many species, they'll think they've got it all figured out. They'll flap their wings a couple times, and I've been doing this 25 years, folks. I can almost see it in those little birds' eyes. They're thinking, how hard can this be? I'm a bird. And those young chicks will flap their wings and step off that ledge, fully expecting to fly. But as soon as they take their first step, they realize immediately that they have made a terrible mistake. And terror-stricken, those baby birds will flap their wings as hard and fast as they possibly can, and the baby murres will tumble down the rock wall and splash into the water. If these birds nested anywhere with land beneath them, they'd go extinct in just a couple generations. But here, they go splash, and those baby birds are okay. These murres are diving, fish-eating birds. Oh, well, that's pretty impressive. It's not his turn. Don't look at. Supposed to be looking at now. Have the ability to flap their wings and fly underwater over 600 feet deep. There is only one bird on this planet that can actually dive deeper than these murres, and that is the true penguin of Antarctica. And the only way penguins are able to dive deeper, penguins lost the ability to fly in the air. True penguins cannot fly in the air. Of any bird on this planet that flies, those are the deepest diving. And you put all that together, and I just don't think it's fair to call them a common mer. Okay, now you can look at the sea lions. These are stellar sea lions. They are the largest of all sea lions worldwide. Named after the famed naturalist George Steller, he accompanied Vitus Ferry on his voyage of discovery back in 1741 and 42. The adult males can be up to 2,000 pounds. The females, however, are much more dainty and petite. The females rarely weigh more than 600 or 700 pounds. These animals are 25% larger than their closest cousin, the California sea lion. These animals are the original named sea lions, called the sea lion for two reasons. One, oftentimes they growl, sounding very similar to an African lion. California sea lions cannot growl, they only bark. And oftentimes when the adult males rear up on the rocks, the fur bristles out on their chest, and they look similar to an African mane when the fur bristles out on their chest and around their neck. These animals have been placed on the endangered species list, and they have lost over 85% of their population in western Alaska in the last 40 years. That is a dramatic decline in any animal's numbers. The biologists have not yet reached a consensus as to the cause of this decline, as to whether it's disease, predation, lack of available food, or intervention by man in any of the breeding or the pupping areas. And this is not a breeding or pupping area. This is called a haul out. This is where males, females, young and old gather together during the daylight hours. They lay around, they grunt, they snort, they scratch themselves, and frequently bother the one next to them. That's kind of the daytime activities of a stellar sea lion. They are a nocturnal feeding animal. They hunt at night, and they are truly a fierce predator of the sea, hunting salmon, pollock, cod, and herring. True seals, harbor seals, fur seals, ring seals, leopard seals, all true seals, when they are out of the water on land, move by a method of locomotion called ungulation. That's a fancy word for wiggle. True seals, when they're out of the water, only wiggle. They're quite awkward. They never feel safe or secure, and true seals are always found within 1 or 2 body lengths of the water's edge, so if anything disturbs them, a couple quick wiggles, they slide into the water and they immediately become fast, agile, and graceful. Sea lions are the only member of the seal family that can actually climb. And these animals can climb because they're the only ones to have what's called articulated and opposable rear flippers. Articulated means when they're swimming in the water, that rear flipper trails behind them like the fins of a scuba diver. When they get up on land, they flip them forwards. They stick out in front of them like our feet do. And it's a split rear flipper that works opposite each other, just like our thumb and forefinger. And this gives them the unique ability over all other seals that they can firmly grasp the rock with their rear flippers, then they can use those large fore flippers as levers and climb. Now these guys aren't moving around very much, but if any of them do start to move around, you'll see they kind of lumber about. They do look a little awkward. Oh, there's one just came out on the rock. There's a stately sea lion pose. Now you may also notice some of these animals are different colors, dark brown, golden, silver, gray. They're really all the same color. It's just the lighter ones have been out of the water longer and they've dried off a little more. This guy's coming over to check us out. These animals have excellent hearing, vision, and eyesight. He knows we're here. And it's a mammal. They have brains capable of thought. Now they're checking it up a little. So if you see any of them move around up there, they may seem quite awkward. But the truth is, these animals can outrun you in a 50-yard dash. These are extremely powerful animals. And their nickname is the sea bear. And they're called that because if you were to find the skull of a stellar sea lion, it is virtually identical to that of a black or a brown bear with their tooth structure and their eye sockets in the shape of their head. These are voracious predators of the sea. There is a place in Seward called the Alaska Sea Life Center, and I'll tell you a little bit more about the Sea Life Center upon our return. It is a place where they are conducting a lot of the research on trying to determine the decline in these animals' numbers. Wow, what a great stop so far. Bald eagles, deepest diving bird in the world that flies, and now a haul-out stellar sea lion. There's a couple more here just off on our left-hand side. And you can see that one of them quite a ways up the rock, tucked underneath the shoreline. These animals can climb. And perhaps there may be another area a little farther along where you might be able to see a few more. All right, we're going to idle into this area up ahead of us called Emerald Cove. And we'll just, no guarantees, no promises, none of that. But this is an area where sometimes we get a chance to view, some of the puffins. And I really am going to try hard to find you puffins. We've got puffins on our shirts, puffins on our buildings, puffins on the boat. Not really supposed to bring you back until you see a puffin. But I tell you, I've been doing this 27 years. I'm getting real good at it. It never takes me longer than a day and a half to find a puffin.
This is such a so you don't really like talking.
All right, just off to the left-hand side of the boat, on the water, a horned puffin. There are 3 birds on the water just to our left. On the far left is a common bird. Right in the center is a horned puffin, and then there's a black-legged kittiwake. We have 2 types of puffins here. We have horned puffins and tufted puffins. Horned puffins have a white breast, a black back, and a big white eye. Look, he just dove down. We'll just wait here a minute and see if he comes back up. Oh, there's another one just off to the left of the bow. Yeah, we already did the sea lions. All right, well, to be quite honest with you folks, this area we're drifting into here is it's got quite a few rocks and a reef sticking out from it. So that's as close as I can get here. I'm going to try to find you another one. Anyway, there's another horned puffin there just off to our left. White breast, black back, and big white eye patch. And of course that big old orange goofy puffin looking bill. Yep, that's a horned puffin. These horned puffins are also open ocean diving, fish-eating birds. Like the murres, they also dive by flapping their wings, not paddling their feet. But puffins are not nearly as good a diver as the murres. Puffins can only fly underwater about 300 feet deep. Now, if at all possible, folks, I'll try to let those of you trying to take photos, I'll try to keep the glare of the sun out of it, but this is nature. We just kind of see what we can see. And if you can't get the photo that you want, well, I'm 73 years old, and I'll tell you, the original memory card is between your ears. Alright, we'll go into Emerald Cove and see if anybody's home in here. Already a great start. We've only gone along half a mile the shoreline. So there's horned puffins with a white breast, black back, and a big white eye patch. There's also what are called tufted puffins. And tufted puffins have an all-black body and light plumage on either side of their heads. The tufted puffins kind of look like they got a mohawk feather cut. They are all open ocean diving birds, and they only come ashore like the murres just for a few short months to nest. The horned puffins nest in cracks in the rock wall, but unlike the murres, they do build a nest. The tufted puffins nest in burrows in the vegetation. So if you see a tufted puffin on the rock, that's not his nest, that's his front porch. Okay, and these birds are just now Now these birds are just now starting to arrive from the open ocean. And as a naturalist and a tour guide, I'm really not supposed to tell you what we saw yesterday or what we might see tomorrow. We just focus on what we got. Kind of take it as it comes. But I will tell you, these birds are just now starting to arrive. And in another month, there will be hundreds of puffins in this little cove. Alright, well, nobody's home in there. I'm going gonna try to find, I'm not happy with just one pup. So we're gonna try to find you a few more here.
We're like this.
All right, well, guess I gotta work a little harder than I thought today and try to find you another puffin someplace. But right now, we're gonna come around this corner and we're gonna get out into the Gulf of Alaska and the North Pacific Ocean. So once again, always use the handrails, be especially careful on the stairways. Young children must be accompanied by adults whenever they're moving about, and please do not lift or carry any infants or toddlers on the outer deck. If you wish to take an infant or a toddler outside, bring them on out, have a seat. If you wish to show them something outside the boat, you may lift them up only high enough for their head to clear the rail. And any of the adults aboard, if you've got some vertically challenged young kids around you, you can slide on back and let the kids have a view. We'd appreciate that. All right, we're coming out into the Gulf of Alaska and the North Pacific Ocean.
I like that camera. Oh, thank you. Sorry.
And we have got a gorgeous day for this. We've got a gentle open ocean swell of about 2.5 feet and about 5 knots of wind. This is as good as it gets, and I'll tell you this honestly, and I'm going to be honest with you all day. There's a lot of days we can't even come out right around this corner. And there are some days where we can come around the corner, and some folks do a little bit better with it than others. All of these birds, the kittiwakes, the glaucous gulls, the puffins, the murres, all of these birds have two primary enemies out here, and they are both other birds. First off, bald eagles will take eggs and chicks from the nesting site. And out here at Cape Resurrection, we have a fairly sizable population of the fastest bird on the planet. It's called the peregrine falcon. And peregrine falcons will fly in the upper elevations, tuck their wings, and dive at speeds of well over 100 miles an hour and take any of these birds from mid-flight. All right, I am going to pull the bow once again a little bit closer to these shoreline, and this is the nesting site of the black-legged kittiwakes. And of all the nesting birds here, these are the most industrious. When they arrive in the spring, they gather up twigs, sticks, moss, kelp, all kinds of stuff, and they place it on these narrow ledges. Then they'll go into the vegetated areas and they'll pull out clumps of grass, and they try very hard to get the roots and dirt with it. They put that on top of everything else. They'll go down, They'll wet their breast feathers, they'll return to the nesting site, they'll shake the water off, and then they do a little dance, and it creates a mud-like mixture very similar to the adobe used by the Native Americans in the Southwest. And these are the nesting sites of the black-legged kittiwake. Many of these birds are sitting on eggs, and we do have the opportunity later on in the summer to watch young chicks hatch right here, as well as take their first flight. Now, if by chance all of these birds leave the rock wall and fly over us chaotically, making a lot of noise, that is not because of our presence. It is called the peeling out, and that is a defense mechanism should a predator bird come by. A bald eagle can easily take any of these kittiwakes. A peregrine falcon can easily take any of these kittiwakes. But a swarming cloud of 100 or 200 kittiwakes making a lot of noise, that will deter them, and that is how these birds protect the nesting sites. Now, right in the intertidal zone, I'm going to pull back up here. If you look on the right-hand side of the vessel, right above the water's edge, we've got some real pretty vermilion or purple sea stars and a couple of orange sea stars right in the tidal range, right along the water's edge. Now I am going to ask you folks to do me one little favor. Those of you taking these photos now of the sea stars and the starfish, please don't show those to my boss. And now if you look back into this large cavern just off to our right, you'll see another nesting colony of those birds. Up there. Now these black-legged kittiwakes are what are called a colonial nesting bird. If you look ahead of us, a little bit off to the left, you'll see a large colony in the next little face of the rock. There's the nesting colony in front of us, another little colony off to the right of us, and then a couple more off to the right of us. This is actually one large nesting colony, and at the peak of the nesting season here, there will be between 20 and 40,000 nesting black-legged kittiwakes, and this group of birds will always come to this same location every year. There are other nesting colonies of the kittiwakes just off to our right on Barwell Island. There's nesting colonies of kittiwakes behind us on Rugged Island, but each of those colonies will always return to their same location to nest and raise their young. Now just on the water up ahead of us is it's called a raft. That is a group of birds on the water, a raft of the common murres, and as we come upon them, rarely will they fly away. More often than not, they will die. Well, I am really happy we've got such a nice day to come around here. Straight ahead of us, right on the horizon, you'll see some snow-capped mountains. That is the mountain peaks of Montague Island, marking the entrance to Prince William Sound, and those snow-capped mountain peaks are 50 miles away. Use the handrail. Be real careful. Also, as we're out here, I do want everybody to always be watching for spouts, flukes, or fins. Humpback whales, fin whales, orcas can all appear at any moment. I have not heard any word on any of the radios of any whales yet today. And if I do hear of any that are within our range, we'll certainly head for them. But they're whales, they're wild, they can show up anywhere at any time. Always be watching for spouts, flukes, or fins. Way off in the distance, in about the 11 o'clock position, you can see what's called Ellsworth Glacier in the distance. That glacier connects to the Sargent Ice Field over in Prince William Sound. It is a Piedmont or Valley glacier. It does not come down to the water's edge. It is separated from these waters by its terminal moraine and outwash plain. All right, folks, well, I'm going to have to go inside, start to pick up some speed. Rugged Island is just up ahead of us in the distance, and we're going to pick up some speed and run over to Rugged Island, see who might be home over in that area today. So those of you up here on the bridge, if I can get you to slide on back, even on the days where I don't know where I'm at, I still need to see where we're going. Everybody else, please use those handrails. Be especially careful on the stairway. We're going to pick up some speed now and make our way over to Rugged Island. Okay.
Fjords School.
Simply what it must do just to survive. The humpback whale is not a toothed whale. It is a baleen whale. It is a filter feeder and it strains water for its food. And if you take a moment and look down at the water here, it is green and you can't see very far in it. The water is not polluted. All that green is protein. It is phyto and zooplankton, the foundation and building blocks of life for the entire Pacific Ocean. And that green in the water is its main food source. It comes to Alaska in the summer to feed. It goes to Hawaii in the winter to breed one year and to give birth the next. Baby humpback whales are not born with any fat or blubber, and if the females gave birth to their young in this cold Alaskan water, the baby humpback whale would quickly die of hypothermia. So they go to the warmer waters of Hawaii to breed one year and give birth the next. I'm frequently then asked, why don't they just stay in Hawaii? Well, if you know anything about the travel agency and industry in Hawaii, they like to show you pictures of people swimming around in the warm, clear water, looking at the reefs and the colorful fish. The water's clear. There's nothing for the animal to eat. It would starve to death if it stayed in Hawaii. So it's a 3,000-mile swim from the kitchen to the bedroom, and the animal's got to do it twice a year. See, this is a very popular whale. All the boats around us. It is the only whale found today in Resurrection Bay. This animal is going to be visited quite a bit throughout the day. And again, I'm not going to try to cause it any disturbance or anxiety at all. It is a marine mammal and it is protected. Now that being said, we don't chase it, we don't drive up to it. It's not a game of who can get the closer. However, the whales do not read the rule books. And if we're just sitting here and it decides to come to us, that's okay.
The other boat is waiting also for the whale.
Kind of see how easy it was for us to drive by and not see. There's the spout. We can move a little bit further. A big part of whale watching is whale waiting. These animals frequently spend 6 to 8 minutes beneath the surface, 12 to 20 on a deeper feeding dive, and up to 45 minutes on a deeper traveling dive. And on a traveling dive, this animal can swim laterally beneath the surface for well over a mile. So oftentimes where you see them go down is nowhere near where they come back up. I mentioned it's a baleen whale, not a tuna whale. It's a filter feeder and it strains water for its food. Think of a comb, just like you comb your hair. Think of the teeth of the comb being 4 to 6 feet in length, being fuzzy with a fringe on the back. A humpback whale has about 600 of those combs that hang down from its upper jaw. This animal adult humpback whale, just blue again. This humpback whale will open up, an adult humpback whale will open up its mouth and take in as much as 500 gallons of water. It will then drop all those baleen plates down from its upper jaw, and then with its 2-ton tongue, it will push the water through the baleen. It will act much like a strainer or a sieve. It'll then then scrape all the phyto and zooplankton as well as very small fish off the baleen plates, mush it up, and chow down. Try to eat up to a ton of food a day. But the animal's throat can swallow nothing larger than a grapefruit. If that animal were to open its mouth and get in salmon or pollock or cod, it could choke to death. It doesn't want salmon fillet. It wants oatmeal. It wants phyto and zooplankton as well as very small fish, capelin, herring, sand lance, kind of like sardines. Now, to give you an example of how important it is that we don't disturb these animals here while they're feeding, and they're only here to feed, give you an example of a pregnant female. If this whale that we are seeing here at Cape Resurrection is a pregnant female, in the fall, around October or so, middle to end of October, she will swim 3,000 miles to Hawaii without eating. When she gets to Hawaii, she will give birth to her young, still without eating. And at birth, a baby humpback whale is around 10 feet in length. She will then begin to nurse her young. And while nursing, a baby humpback whale will drink up to 100 gallons of its mother's milk a day, gaining as much as 10 pounds an hour. And still the female cannot eat. She will nurse her young for 4 to 5 months in the warmer waters of Hawaii. And finally, when that young humpback whale is big enough and strong enough to make the journey, she will nurse her young 3,000 miles back to Alaska. And it is only when she returns here that she can find the green water and begin to feed herself and wean her young. And from the time a female humpback whale leaves Alaska, gives birth, and returns with her young, she will lose over 50 to 60% of her body weight. It's extremely arduous for these females to give birth and raise their young. These animals were also decimated in their population by whalers at the turn of the century. They've been protected by law. Oh, looked like it just jumped.
Which side?
They are called humpback whales because oftentimes before they make a very large, deep dive, they make a very big, pronounced arch of their back, hence the name humpback. And quite frequently after doing that, they throw their big flukes or tails up. And they are quite well known for their surface activities, where they sometimes come to the surface, slap their tails, maybe even show their pectoral fins. And their pectoral fins is an appendage very similar to our arms, hangs outward and downward from the upper forward portion of their torso. And the pectoral fin of a humpback whale is about 30% of its body length. This is about a 30-foot humpback whale. they leap right out of the water. When they do it, well, whenever they want. Why they do it, well, there's a lot of conjecture on that. Down in the warmer waters of Hawaii, the adult males do that to show dominance, to kind of present and show themselves off to the females. They want to be the bigger and the stronger male. They also, these animals also have parasites that grow upon them, and they will leap and breach to sometimes knock some of those off their skin. And also, humpback whales communicate through sound. And the sound of a humpback whale leaping and striking the water have been heard and responded to by other humpback whales over 12 miles away. Is only the 5th largest animal on the planet. It is the very strongest. It has the largest and strongest muscle of any animal on Earth. It's called the caudal peduncle muscle, and that's the muscle that connects its huge tail to the rest of its body. And no matter what size the humpback whale, it does take just 2 swipes of its tail to launch itself airborne. As we found it undisturbed by our presence. All right, we got a humpback whale today. You saw the spout, you didn't see much of the back, and well, to be honest with you, I didn't see it leap out of the water. I just saw the splash. Maybe a tail? Now some of the other boats have moved off. We can move in just a little bit. Like I say, there is protocol and laws that protect these animals, and we don't want to surround them or put a lot of pressure on them. They know we're here. They can hear the sound of our engines. They have excellent vision. They can also do what's called lunging, where they'll stick their head up out of the water, and with their eyes, they do have very good ocular acuity. And that's a fancy way of saying eyesight. They see real good. And I'll see if this animal comes up one more time. We got a couple other places to go. To be quite honest with you, I'm still going to try to find you a few more puffins. You can see they're just now starting to come in. There have been a few that have flown by. But as I say, in another month, there's going to be quite a few more. Now, he did make a pronounced arch at the back that time, and that generally means they're going to be down for a little longer. Oh, there he is. that wasn't a real pronounced arch at the back. I expect him to be back up again. Pacific humpback whale today. Alright, now I'm going to start to pick up speed and make our way to another stop or two and maybe try to find a couple more puffins. No guarantee on that, but I'll give it a try.